People ignore the fact that the breeders are taking gambles. You have to take care of your breeders. That's the backbone of this industry. I need to provide for the breeder the best investment program I can. Share the upside. I've had a lot of people tell me they were glad they did it. You have people here, they have a farm and they need to sell their foals and they need to have a chance of making money. I'm proud of what's happened here. I think that we're just in the beginning stages. I'm excited really about the future.
Hi everybody and welcome to Spa Babies, presented by Spendthrift, the Breeder's Farm. I'm Dan Illman, always delighted to talk Saratoga 2-year-olds with Nicole Russo. And we're going to take a look at the field for Wednesday's Spa Baby race, kicking off the pick 6 with race number 5. 5.5 furlongs. It's a maiden special weight for 2-year-old fillies, but it's a new condition unveiled this year at Saratoga. It is for horses that sold or were bought back for $45,000 or less in their most recent sale. Nicole, a really intriguing new condition, and I'm sure we'll have some handicapping angles before this meet is through.
Oh, definitely. And I think this new condition is very intriguing. We know that a good horse can come from anywhere, but I do think that grouping them like this levels the playing field a little bit, which should create some very solid fields, very interesting wagering opportunities. I will note, just as a general rule, that there are plenty of good horses out there who have been auction RNAs, even at lower prices, especially in this very selective market that's developed. The 2-year-old market in particular, I thought was very selective this year. So I think that's something just to keep in mind, not just with these races, but moving forward, looking at other horses' auction histories.
And I would be remiss if I didn't mention that our sponsor, Spendthrift, is represented by the 2 morning line favorites in this race. The number 3, Myawara, is by their stallion, Wicked Strong. The number 4, Double Down Dare, by Spendthrift stallion, Cross Traffic. Let's get to the pedigree cards of the horses in post-position order, beginning with the number 1, Little Farina, one of 2 in here trained by Rudy Rodriguez. And this filly has some precocity. Astrology, as you see, does very well with 2-year-old debut runners, and this second dam was a 2-year-old debut winner and also a juvenile stakes winning dirt sprinter.
Yeah, and you know, Astrology was a very decent 2-year-old himself at Saratoga some years back. I like this cross of an AP Indy Line stallion over an Unbridled Song mare. At first glance, you think this pedigree, she might want to go a bit longer, but you mentioned the speed, the precocity in the female family there. Little Farina has a few 4-furlong works, including a couple of those from the gates in company. I think that'll help her, know what to expect a little bit in a race scenario, breaking from the rail here in her debut. Of course, you can't completely replicate a race scenario in morning works, but I do think that she has a work tab that will, help her as much as it can.
And as you see, this one has gone through the auction ring 3 times already: a $4,000 weanling purchase, a $20,000 yearling buy, and a $29,000 buyback earlier this year after breezing a furlong in 10-1. So she obviously qualifies for the conditions of this race. The number 2 in here is Ain't None Lucky, and we're going to take a look at the stretch run of Ain't None Lucky's career debut at Laurel. You'll see her running on at the end of this race for 3rd, but there were really 2 stories for this race. And one was that the winner, Shippy, who actually was a $77,000 purchase, who would not have qualified for this race at all, seems like she's a pretty good one. She's the one running off the screen, and she came back to run 3rd in the Schuylerville with a 79 buyer. The second story concerns Ain't None Lucky's start. She went right down to her nose at the start and gave up valuable position. All in all, this was a really good run from an experience standpoint.
It really was. I think she's definitely eligible to improve with the experience, with a better break. Of course, the winner of that race you mentioned came back to flatter her. So eligible to improve with the experience, and also with an extra half a furlong here by Candy Ride over a Dickie Union mare.
And another one with some precocity on the bottom of her pedigree. She is a half to a multiple stakes winning sprinter, Balk, who won 3 times as a 2-year-old and was a stakes winning sprinter on a synthetic surface. The dam won a couple of dirt sprint races as well. The number 3 is our morning line favorite, Myawara, by Spendthrift stallion, Wicked Strong. Let's talk a little bit about Wicked Strong, a first crop stallion. What should we expect?
Yeah, Wicked Strong really surprised me a little bit earlier this year when two-year-old racing started in April. We talked about him quite a bit this season of Keeneland babies. Wicked Strong was a horse who definitely got better into his three-year-old year and beyond, definitely appreciated distance. So he surprised me by, coming out firing with a couple of these, 4.5, 5 furlong horses early in the year. I really thought they would take some more time and ground to develop. But in this regard, I think maybe Wicked Strong is tapping into his sire line. He's by Hard Spun, who of course is by the great Danzig. Danzig, the sire of very good two-year-old sires, including Warfront out there. So I think in that sense, Wicked Strong has tapped into a little bit of that precocity as well. And Myawara, another one who maybe looks ready to come out running, got a B from her most recent work from our colleague Mike Welsh, leading the DRF Clocker team. Of course, the Clocker report's a very valuable resource throughout these Saratoga and Del Mar meets in the summer. Slightly best of her workmate while working inside, Mike Welsh says. And, being inside can be an intimidating spot for a young horse. I like it when they, show some run in spite of that. And this most recent gate work, he ranks better than her previous gate work, and that tells me perhaps she's learning something in her morning experiences.
We also have the great team of Todd Pletcher and John Velasquez standing behind Myawara. She is a half-sister to a two-year-old stakes-placed dirt sprinter, and the dam's a half to Sharp Humor, who is a very quick graded stakes winner as a two-year-old. So there's a lot to like about Myawara, and perhaps one of the handicapping angles we'll see in this condition is that Myawara just squeaks into the condition. She sold for $45,000 as a yearling. That's the cutoff line for these babies. The number 4 is Double Down Dare. And Double Down Dare, we're going to take a look at her career debut at Parks. She was dismissed at 15-1 that day, showed excellent early speed, battled with several other horses down towards the inside, and she ended up finishing a game second, and she was flattered when the third place finisher came back to graduate with a 74 Beyer speed figure. Double Down Dare by Spendthrift Stallion, Cross Traffic.
Yeah, and Cross Traffic, another horse who really liked Saratoga winning the Whitney here. He's done, very well with his juveniles in his first couple of crops. I believe he's an 18% juvenile sire, has a really nice strike rate, from this Unbridled Song sire line.
And this filly has a nice little pedigree. The dam was a juvenile sprint winner as a two-year-old. The dam is a half to a two-year-old grade 3 stakes winning sprinter named Screen Your Friend, who won twice as a two-year-old. And the second dam, a multiple grade 3 winning dirt router. Double Down Dare showed that speed in her debut, and I would expect to see it once again on Wednesday. The 5 is La Negrita, another one trained by Rudy Rodriguez, and another one with some precocity in the pedigree. Fed Biz, the stallion, does very well. 17% winners with juvenile debut runners. The dam was a sprint winner at 2, and she has foaled a juvenile stakes winner named Respect the Hustle. That one won routing at 2.
Yeah, there's a lot of two-year-old ability in this family, but looking at La Negrita's work tab, she's been working frequently on turf. Therefore, I wonder if, she's just sort of here to get her feet wet, get some experience, and that she's meant for something else later, perhaps a surface switch or some more distance. She's by a stallion, Fed Biz by Giants Causeway, who is a very versatile runner himself. So I do expect, he's still early in his stud career. I do expect his progeny to succeed on a variety of surfaces.
Project Whiskey is the number 6, and this Parks-based filly is by Tapazar, wins 9% of the time with two-year-old first-time starters. The dam is a half-sister to Reddy's Image, who was a juvenile graded stakes winner sprinting at Saratoga. So there is some pedigree here, and a very interesting 5-furlong workout out of the gate on July the 8th really punctuates the work tab. These Parks-based connections often come in with live first-time starters. This is the kind of filly, I think, where you want to watch the board for your pick 6 wagers, for your multiple race wagers, and even for win betting, because if she gets bet down off her morning line, I think she's live.
I think so a little bit. You mentioned that 5-furlong work. I'm sort of torn what to think of this work tab, admittedly. I really do like that most recent work. I like when juveniles have a little bit of bottom under them with some longer works before they debut. That being said, the work tab is light, only 4 works, and I'm wondering just how cranked up this one's going to be able to be. Tap is our over Malibu Moon does make me think that she'll appreciate some distance down the line, although Reddy's Image is the name that jumped out on the page to me as well. He was a very nice 2-year-old.
The number 7 is Just Fly, and she is the most experienced runner in this race, having already started twice. While she didn't run very well on turf last time out, she did perform well in her career debut on the main track at Churchill Downs. It was a race where she didn't break very well, then rushed up and battled in between horses. She had to alter course to the outside in the stretch, and she finished second best. I like that she was an $8,000 weanling that then sold up for $40,000 in March of 2019 after a nice 1 furlong breeze in 10 seconds flat. Nice pedigree. Dam was a 6-time winner. Third dam was the multiple graded winner, Magical Mystery Cat. And the fourth dam was the multiple grade 2 winner, Nan Neural. So there's a nice pedigree here and a nice outside stalking post.
There is, and I think there's a lot to like about this filly from that experience standpoint for trainer Joe Sharp. You mentioned the second on debut to a pretty well-regarded horse in Indy Takes Charge, then finished 12th in that turf sprint after bobbling at the start. I think you can draw a line through that one, through that turf experience. Coming up from Churchill Downs, I think those shippers, from the Kentucky circuit might do well at this meet. And again, looking at the DRF Clocker report from Mike Walsh and team, again, I strongly encourage our listeners to pick those up at DRF.com. Coming in off a bullet work that the team gave a B to, so really looks to be headed in the right direction coming into the third start here.
Number 8 is Devil's Rendezvous, $49,000 weanling buyback, $52,000 yearling. And if that was her most recent sale, she would not be eligible for this race. But she was offered in April, sold for $45,000. And here she is from the first crop of Champagne winner Daredevil, who's gotten off to a pretty decent start. I think we can expect the Daredevils to be quick.
Oh, I definitely think so. Daredevil, a really interesting freshman sire to me. He's got a terrific physical. As you mentioned, he was a grade 1 winning 2-year-old himself, going the 1-turn mile at Belmont. He's by More Than Ready, who, of course, is an outstanding 2-year-old sire himself. Coming from that More Than Ready line where they run on turf, they run on dirt, I expect the Daredevils to perhaps have some versatility. Devil's Rendezvous's got a nice, solid work tab, probably has a decent fitness base underneath.
I wonder if Daredevil, as you say, might be very versatile and kind of a hidden turf stallion. And there is some turf on the bottom of this pedigree. The dam was multiple stakes placed on the grass. She has foaled 2 turf winners. Nice mixture in the pedigree, though. The second dam, a stakes-winning dirt sprinter, that was also a winner at 2. We'll move on to the number 9, Raggedy Annie, a $55,000 buyback as a yearling. And again, if that was her most recent sale, she would not be able to qualify for this race. She was offered again a couple of months after that sale, bought back again for $45,000. So she's right at the cutoff point. She's by Union Rags, 9% winners with 2-year-old first-time starters. The dam won on turf and synthetic. She was an older debut winner. I wonder if this pedigree is geared for a little bit more experience and a little bit more distance down the road.
I think so as well. Union Rags was himself a good 2-year-old. He was a graded winner at Saratoga and won the Champagne, again, going a 1-turn mile as a 2-year-old. He's developed into a decent 2-year-old sire, but his best runners have been going longer. He's had 2-year-old grade 1 winners like Dancing Rags and Free Drop Billy, both around 2 turns. And combining that with this female family, as you mentioned, the dam being an older debut winner, and a few more of those in the family as well, I do think that this one might appreciate the experience and the distance.
And we have a formulator fact for the legendary trainer Wayne Lucas, who often likes to give his 2-year-olds a start or 2 before they fire their best shot. 0 for 24 over the past 5 years with juvenile debut runners in maiden special weight dirt sprints at Saratoga. We can complete the field with the number 10, Gabi's Tuff, who is a half-sister to a pretty precocious runner named Saltamontes, a juvenile stakes-winning dirt sprinter that won the career debut, a $19,000 buyback as a yearling. Gabi's Tuff sold for $25,000 earlier this year after breezing in 10-4. She's by Tuffelsburg. The dam has been pretty productive, but I wonder if this New York bred has kind of found a tough spot with a tough outside post position to boot.
I think so, perhaps. I do always like to highlight this sire line. It's always a very interesting one in 2-year-old races. Teufelsberg by Johannesburg, who of course was a 2-year-old champion on 2 continents and has sired a number of good or grade 1 winning 2-year-olds himself. Teufelsberg was a decent 2-year-old, went on to sire Trinaberg. I thought he was a great get for the New York program when he moved up there. I think he wins 12% with his debut runners, which is a little lower than I expect to see, but it's an interesting sire line, but I do wonder, again, this one, another one with a nice long work tap and perhaps a nice fitness base underneath her, if she might need the start.
Field of 10 kick off the pick 6 at Saratoga on Wednesday with this new condition, a maiden auction, maiden special weight. Nicole, who are you leaning towards before odds, track conditions, etc.?
Well, you know what? I do think you've got a chance to pick up a little bit of a price in this race. I'm going to ignore the favorites at my peril. We mentioned Myawara from the Pletcher barn and Double Down Dare coming in off that game effort at Parks. But I do think that the others with experience in this field, 8 and Unlucky and Just Fly, both very eligible to improve with the experience. 8 and Unlucky, we mentioned the trouble on debut and being flattered by the winner who came back to run well in the Schuylerville. I do think 8 and Unlucky should take a step forward. And Just Fly, again, I think draw a line through the most recent start, which, might cause some bettors to overlook her a little bit, might give you a better price. And coming in off a solid work for Joe Sharp, I do think 8 and Unlucky and Just Fly both eligible to step forward in this spot.
I agree. I used Just Fly third, 8 and Unlucky fourth. 8 and Unlucky, I think a little bit of a hidden class drop, not only because she was in against Chippy, but because she was in against some very expensive yearlings and is now in for the maiden auction tag. But I went with Double Down Dare. I'm going with the Spendthrift exact. I liked what I saw from Double Down Dare's debut. I like the speed. I like the tenacity she showed in the stretch. I like the fact she finished ahead of a next out winner. Myawara for Wicked Strong goes out for Pletcher and Velasquez. We talked about all of that one's merits. Again, just creeping in under the deadline here, so to speak, $45,000 yearling purchase. I went 4, 3, 7, and 2, presented by Spendthrift. Best of luck.